Hello everyone, I'm Marta aka Obscure Beauty and welcome to another video. And yes, we're back to see my ugly mug. I thought I could draw an avatar like Feng Zhao, Pointy Hat or any other of the cool YouTubers out there, but I am way too lazy for that and therefore this is what you get. But I'll make sure to make up for that and I'll put some art later on so you can refresh your eyes with some hot smexy demons. Now seriously, I've been asked on TikTok to make a tutorial video about my shading method, but I think it's just easier if I actually start with a video on how I organize my layers on Procreate, which is a drawing app that I use, and then move on to something more specific like the shading tutorial. And the reasoning for this is that mostly I'm just really messy with my process and I've tried several and truth methods, but you know, clearly chaos is my domain and I shall rule over it. It's up to you if you actually can deal with it. This organization method obviously works on Procreate, but it's also valid for any other art program out there. So fear not, my friends, you'll be able to use it if you can cope with it. Not to mention that Procreate is, for me, the best drawing app out there, but also fairly basic, so chances are that if you use any other app, you'll basically get access to everything that I've got and more. So guys, to explain how I rule over hell, I mean chaos, I'll be sharing some examples of my newest paintings. One is already completed and the other is sort of on the way. I've been making some fan art because I want one day to be able to actually attend a Comic-Con and sell something rather than just kind of sitting there rather pitiful with my OC drawings. So meet Hua Cheng, my crush from Heaven's Official's Blessing, a story by Mo Xiangtong. I am so sorry if I'm mispronouncing something, and Alucard from Castlevania. I think he really doesn't need any introductions because he's so hot. And these two hot guys were picked, actually, Alucard was picked by my patrons on one of the pulls that I made, whereas Hua Cheng, I just had to do it because I am completely obsessed over him. You can buy the novel on Amazon, read the manhwa on this Bilibili app, and I'm sure the second season of the Donghua is coming soon to Netflix, and I totally encourage you to binge watch it like I did, just because. I usually make between 2 to 3 sketches. Obviously that's just an average and it depends on how blessed my hand is on that day, or probably more common how messy it decides to be. I start really rough and start defining as I go. When I feel like I have a good idea of what the hell I'm doing, I finally decrease the last layer opacity and proceed to line art. And I usually try and avoid too many layers of line art because that will make me very confused and very prone to make mistakes. So I divide it by my signature custom brushes that need to be colored separately and the rest of the line art in one go. And I always keep a copy of my sketches and line art so I can share them with my patrons just in case anyone wants to color them, unless I make a mistake like with my Hua Cheng painting and I got a faceless line art. No sexy demons were hurt in the process of the painting, just so you know. In between the line art group and the sketch group, I start adding my flat layers. Now, there's obviously several ways of doing this, and I've tried having all the flats in one layer and having them separately. And because I'm usually never happy with my first color choices and iterations, I find that having all the flats in separate layers just suits me the most. That also helps me when I do the shading and lighting, which, as you can see, I end up merging with the flats when I'm fairly happy with how the grayscale looks. Wait, grayscale? Yes! On top of all my layers, except maybe the reference layers, I always keep a fully white layer on color mode. As you can see, when I turn it on, all the colors turn to grayscale. This is the easiest method available on most of all art programs to get a consistently good idea of your values being the range from white to black that you are using, which usually determines a good shading. You can of course do all the painting in gray and color it later, but I actually find that's really hard to do properly. So despite me painting it with colors, I regularly check how the values look with that white layer. And if you use an iPad, you can also get an app called VisRef, where you can store your references and you can toggle those references to be in grayscale, so you can compare to your values on the reference. Back to the flats, I usually organize them from what's on the top to what's on the bottom of everything. So usually the skin is like at the bottom and then the hair is at the top, but sometimes I still end up subdividing some features, like in this case of Hua Cheng's, the right arm is in front of everything, and also some of his hair, and some of it is behind of the coat, while some is on top of the coat. So just to make sure that you put whatever is on top of everything. I prefer to do it this way, as I can paint more than just the visible area. It can be a bit more work sometimes, but it helps me with making sure the bones are where they are meant to be, or that when I paint the hair, I can erase some parts to make it look more floaty and, you know, transparent, you know, hair. Anyway, I'm not going to get into how I actually paint because that's going to be for the next tutorials, but what I do is to add layers clipped to the original flats, like you can see in here. Gosh, I even named them for your convenience. How cool am I? I do not usually name my layers, duh. Obviously, some stuff will have more layers than others, and I tend to keep the original copy for just the skin and sometimes the hair, just in case I decide to change something later, as the skin layer kind of, you know, the skin plays some of the most important part of my paintings. But for clothes and some objects, I don't usually use nearly as many layers and almost never keep copies of the unmerged layers. When I finally get the character drawn, I duplicate the folder with all the painted parts and merge it together, and then make a new folder where I finally start tying the piece together with the background, if I do a background, and cool effects. This is where I also start messing around with adjustments like curves and color balance, even though it still won't be the final colors yet. When I'm happy with how it looks, I duplicate the whole group again and merge it together, starting the process for the finishing touches, basically. Yay, getting to the end of there. This is the step I'll completely make sure that the background colors and lighting is reflected on the characters, and start adding cool effects that make the painting look cool, like Gaussian blur or sharpen, chromatic aberration, and noise. I'll also play with curves whilst using the grayscale mode until I'm happy with the levels and call it done. I save it in JPEG and usually still run my drawing through some filters using an app called Ultralight. I can finally round up all the progress pictures, sketches, Lineart, timelapse, and final painting to share with my patrons, and then finally with social media. And there you have it, my friends, the super messy way I thrive in chaos with my art. If I ever find a better way that suits me, I promise I will share it with you, but as of now, this is it. I'll leave you the quick time-lapse of how I actually painted Hua Cheng, shortened for your own convenience. I took roughly 12 hours painting it, and it should be fair to you to actually have it all. But if you're curious to see the long time-lapse and all the work in progress, I'd love to have you on my Patreon and on my Discord channel, which is now public, by the way. So just ask me for the invite if you want to be part of my small community. I'll put my Discord name down there. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!
Hey.